I have the top four most vital hires in the Big Ten this year and how they'll shape the 2024 college football season. Plus, it's our 1 year anniversary show. We'll share our thanks. We'll look back and I'll tell you what the number one topic was this year, according to you, on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. All right. The top four vital hires this year, the unsung heroes around the Big Ten, secret weapons, if you will. Plus, we'll take a look back at our top 10 podcasts according to view clicks on YouTube. So you decided what the number one topic was. We'll continue to look at some of the numbers and how we've grown over the first year here on Locked On Big Ten, thanks to you. So we talk at length about various things on this podcast, the importance of coaches and players and important positions, and like who's the best kid coming from the transfer portal, who's the most important recruit or the most important flip from one school to the other. Well, today I want to tell you who I think are the most important hires in the Big Ten this season. Every one of them is a coordinator. All right. So you know where we're coming from on this. Sure, the head coaches, they get all the attention. They're the ones that get most of the praise when things go well. They're the ones that feel the pressure of the hot seat when things go south. But let's look one layer down and talk about the coordinators for a minute, because while the head coach is the face of the program and granting interviews and acting as the CEO of a major college football program, it's the coordinators that really get in there and get in there with the players, hands-on, game plan, pull things together on Saturdays. And while there are numerous new coordinators throughout the Big Ten this year, there are four that I want to highlight as perhaps the four most important coordinator hires in the Big Ten this season and what it means. Let's start with offensive coordinator Chip Kelly at Ohio State. First of all, this hire doesn't happen if Ryan Day doesn't make the decision to let go a little bit. You know, he's very hands-on. And that's how he's been, particularly with the Buckeyes offense during his career, especially his hands-on approach in developing quarterbacks. It's not like he's going to disappear, but head coach at Ohio State, that's a big job. That's an enormous job in college football. There's recruiting, there's the transfer portal, there's name, image, and likeness, there's alumni to deal with, board of directors, media. The list is never ending. And oh yeah, add practice to the list, game planning, and then actually coaching games on Saturdays and then starting it all over again for the following week during the season. To Ryan Day's credit, he decided to step back a little bit and delegate. And of course, the guy they gave the job to was at first Bill O'Brien, who then left 5 weeks later to become the head coach at Boston College. That could have turned into a 5-alarm fire, no question. But luckily, Day had a prior relationship with Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly was getting to the point where he had had enough at UCLA, being the head coach there, dealing with some of the same things that I just listed that Ryan Day has to go through every day. Kelly, in his case, said enough is enough. I just want to coach football. And he took a massive pay cut to prove it and moved to Columbus, Ohio, and is now the offensive coordinator there. Kelly likes the running game, and he's got the best tandem running backs in the entire Big Ten. Now, he's also got to sort out which one of the 5 quarterbacks that he's going to use and then develop him as quickly as possible. So this is a critical hire for the Buckeyes this year, where it's pretty much championship or bust for this team. Now, let's go to the team up north. Now, we're allowed to say Michigan, so we're not the team up north. We'll go with the Michigan Wolverines here. All right, looking right down at Ohio State. Jesse Minter. He may have been the best defensive coordinator in the business, and he certainly called a masterpiece against Washington in the national championship. But he's gone. He followed Jim Harbaugh out to Los Angeles. So enter Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator for the Wolverines. Now, this is a big hire for a big job. Michigan hangs its hat on defense. Martindale comes to Ann Arbor straight from the NFL. He's had stops as defensive coordinator with the Giants, with the Ravens, defensive gigs with the Broncos and the Raiders as well. Now, his style is a bit different from Jesse Minter's, and that's an understatement. Wink Martindale likes to blitz. They likes to blitz again and then blitz some more. That's what you're going to see this year out of the Wolverines. I'm already envisioning this chess match between Michigan's Martindale and Ohio State's offensive coordinator, Kelly. I can't wait for November. It is going to be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. All right. Another critical hire that took place here in the offseason is at Iowa, right? Kirk Ferentz was forced to get rid of his offensive coordinator, son, Brian Ferentz, due to lack of productivity. Now, this was a tough job to fill because I'm not sure a lot of people lined up to take it. Iowa still doesn't have a lot of offensive horsepower there. And again, to be honest, I'd be surprised if Iowa's offense looks much different than it did last year. So Tim Lester, he took the job. He's the offensive coordinator. He's going to be under the microscope. And he should have a healthy Cade McNamara at quarterback this season. That is a luxury that Brian Ferentz did not have last year. So another big, important hire. Finally, again, in no particular order, let's look at Penn State's Andy Kotelnicki. He's the new offensive coordinator there. Comes to Happy Valley from Kansas, where he ran an offense full of motion, different formations. Defenses were always on their toes trying to keep up with his offense. And this is going to be a new look for the Nittany Lions. And it's going to be interesting to watch. Could be fun, though. Could be a lot of fun. But this was something they had to do. They have to mix it up. Now, job one is to get quarterback Drew Aller out of his shell a little bit and help him reach his potential. My opinion is he regressed last year. I think he was overcoached and just was coached over and over. Don't turn the ball over. And he didn't. But he also didn't take any chances. He didn't take any shots downfield. And hopefully that changes for Penn State this year. And I think that will help Aller. And to help Aller out, Kotelnicki's got to find someone that can stretch the defenses a little bit and get downfield from the wide receiver spot. I'm not sure that person is on the roster at this point. So that's where the challenge is. So we'll see what they could do with this offense. But I think this is a critical hire for James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions. So those are the four that I'm looking at. You could call them, not so secret weapons or the unsung heroes of college football. But I think these are the most four important hires in the Big Ten this season. We'd love to hear what you think. Again, Chip Kelly at Ohio State, Tim Lester at Iowa, Wink Martindale at Michigan, and Andy Kotelnicki at Penn State. Those are the guys. And a lot of focus is going to be on them. We're going to focus on them a lot. We'll have a lot of thoughts on them here on Locked On Big Ten as well. But again, what do you think? Let us know. You know the drill. You can hit us up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten number 10. The comments on YouTube are always flowing. And of course, our website that you see scrolling on the bottom there, talkbig10 number 10.com. Love to hear from you. By the way, all of our podcasts go right there after you're done watching them. Now, coming up next, I want to do something a little different from what we normally do and what we have done here for the last year. Okay. What I want to do is celebrate our 1-year anniversary as the host of this show, if you will. And by the way, you guys have been a huge part of it. Thank you very much. We're going to look back at our top 10 podcasts of the year based on the numbers of views or clicks, if you will, on YouTube. There's a whole nother component with the audio only version that a lot of people only listen on, but we're going to look at those and kind of see what you guys like the most. Kind of use that as a gauge here from time to time. So this is decided by you. Which stories earned the most views? What was number one? Very curious to find out, right? And then we'll find out some other things at the end. Our final segment, we'll look at the numbers and how much you guys made this podcast and this podcast, Locked On Big Ten channel, grow over the last year. But I'll just tell you, thank you right now. You guys are very generous and very helpful. Thank you. All that's coming up right here on our 1-year anniversary show right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game Time is here. You got to have the Game Time app on your phone, and that's where you get tickets to everything. Right now, Major League Baseball is in full swing, and you can go ahead, get to the ballpark. But if you're the guy that is in charge of your group and you got to get the tickets, No need to panic. You got them right there on your phone. Game Time, the app, it gets you to everything you want. Baseball games, concerts, comedy shows, everything. Just download the app. You got it for all that at your fingertips. My favorite feature of this thing is you can actually see a picture of the seat from the seat of the view you're about to buy a ticket for. So it's fantastic. They got a lot of last second deals too. You can save up to 60% off last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, everything. Sometimes the later it gets, the better the deal here with Game Time. They've got flash deals. Save with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of a game or an event. So take the guesswork out of buying things like tickets for MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, and that gets you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's have some fun here. We're going to look inside the numbers and do that in just a minute, but also want to look at some of the big stories that we've had this year and the ones that you guys clicked on the most. But first, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us go. You can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, especially you people that listen on audio only too. Go ahead, share and follow and like that as well. And don't forget to check out our website and get your favorite Big Ten merchandise. There's the crawl on the bottom, talkbig10number10.com. You go to a school, you're an alum from a certain school, you want shirts, pennants, hats, t-shirts. It's all right there. Talkbig10number10.com. So when we debuted and took over this channel a year ago today, I told you a story about how I grew up in Michigan and Indiana, and I went to school at Indiana, and I've always loved Big Ten sports. I also told you how later on in life, when I was a professional broadcaster, how I was covering the BCS championship game in person in the Louisiana Superdome. It was January 7th, 2008. The game was between LSU and Ohio State. LSU won the game that day. And I was struck by the crowd, which was largely made up of LSU fans because the game, after all, was in Louisiana, although Ohio State did travel well for that game in their own right. But when it became evident that LSU was going to win the game, the crowd wasn't chanting LSU. They were chanting SEC, SEC, SEC. I've never forgotten that. And the way that cheer just bounced off the roof of the Superdome, very loud, very intense. And it was the loyalty toward the conference before school with those fans. Never forgotten it. I've seen it many times since, but it was incredible. Well, I told you 1 year ago today when I took over this channel that I felt the passion for Big Ten sports was just as deep for Big Ten fans. And I think since that night of that BCS game I told you about, the Big Ten has surpassed the SEC in numerous ways. And now with the addition of USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, the conference and this podcast will be bigger than ever, thanks to you guys. All right, I'm going to put this on the screen. We're going to look and see what the top 10 podcasts were over the past year. We'll start off at number 1 and work our way down. You'll get an idea of what you guys like. All right, the biggest one of the year. We got 53,000 views on YouTube. Now, this does not include the audio-only audience, by the way. That was even more. But it was a report in December that Florida State would jump to the Big Ten within a month. Now, obviously, it hasn't happened within a month, but that was the time when Richard McCullough, the president at Florida State, said, I want an exit plan on my desk by the end of the year. And this was it. This was the end of the year. Then shortly after this podcast, the ACC sued Florida State, and Florida State the next day sued the ACC, and they're still arguing about who sued who first. And that is what pushed this back. I still think this is going to happen. But because everything's bogged down in the court case, I think it'll be, although we've done podcast. I think there could be some sort of settlement because, man, the light at the end of the tunnel on this is a long way away. The second most popular one by views on YouTube was a podcast we did just a couple months ago, or a little more than a month ago, I should say. where a Power 4 athletic director predicted that bottom schools of the Big Ten would be expelled. This was Iowa State athletic director Jamie Pollard. He suggested schools like Indiana and Rutgers and Northwestern would get booted from big conferences like the Big Ten because they weren't carrying their weight. And a lot of you were like me and disagreed. The third most popular episode we had, again, more expansion talk. Big Ten shifts expansion focus to the ACC. Again, not only looking at Florida State. By the way, look at the date on this one. This was August of 2023. We were just getting going. We were not even 2 months into doing this podcast. So this was last summer, and all this talk with Florida State and Miami and Clemson and North Carolina. The rumblings were starting now from the ACC at this point last year in the summertime that, hey, this TV deal stinks. We got to get out of it. Big Ten's making way more money than we are. 33,000 of you tuned into that one. So 53,000 on the Florida State was the leader. The Power 4 athletic director that says that the bottom schools will be expelled, 33,900. And this one, the Big Ten shifting its expansion to the ACC, over 33,000 views last August. And then just under 29,000 views for Michigan finding its quarterback to replace J.J. McCarthy. This was back from April, right after the spring game, when Davis Warren kind of impressed everybody, myself included. Again, I don't know if they're going with Alex Orji, if they're going to go with Davis Warren. I don't know, but it was worth a conversation, and a lot of you thought it was worth a listen and a watch. 28,800. So those were the top 4 of our last year, our first year here on this channel. Let's rounding out the top 5. More Florida State academics blocking Florida State and Clemson from the Big Ten. A lot of you got hot and bothered about this one. It's all about the AAU accreditation. There are like 71 schools that are accredited with the AAU, and with the Big Ten, except a school that wasn't accredited. We point out that Nebraska does not belong to this. So lot of heated comments about academics in the comment section for that one, but just over 28,000 of you checked in on that. And then we also were talking Nebraska and Wisconsin quarterback there as well. I'm trying to think back. December 14th, Dylan Raiola was not a thing for Nebraska just yet, I don't think. Meanwhile, concerns for Michigan versus Washington in the national championship. This was basically a preview to the national championship game. Michigan was on a roll. Nobody could really compete with them, except for the fact maybe Ohio State and Alabama were good games, but they blew everybody else out. What were any concerns they may have? Of course, Washington had a big, powerful offensive line, and Michael Penix was throwing darts all over the place, but Jesse Minter had to plan. But anyway, this was the preview before the game. Just under 24,000 people clicked that on YouTube. And again, more people listened on the audio-only version. At number 7, Michigan president telling Tony Petitti, get lost. There was a story out. This was during Spygate, and everybody was all up in arms. The athletic directors, the coaches, everybody's like, suspend Jim Harbaugh. Even though there wasn't any evidence in yet directly pointing toward Jim Harbaugh. And there was a story that Tony Petitti called up the president, Santa Ono of Michigan, said, hey, how about doing us a favor and suspending your coach? And apparently the president, Santa Ono, told the commissioner to pound sand. Almost 24,000 of you checked that out. This one was from early last football season. Coach Prime at number 8, Colorado getting ready for Nebraska. 22,000 of you checked that out. That was a big deal. Coach Prime was the big story at the beginning of the college football season last year. And Nebraska, one of the first teams. Nebraska went there this year. Coach Prime in Colorado come to Lincoln. So I'm sure we'll do another big podcast on that. 22,000 of you checked that out. And rounding out our top 10 episodes of this past year, more on Florida State. Maybe joining the Big Ten sooner than later. This was just from April, 21,000. And this was when talk of settlements from this lawsuit against the AC were being bantered about. That maybe this summer, maybe it would just settle the whole thing and write a big check and move on. We'll still see. I still think that's the path here. And then we did a story. This was also last August. We were just getting going. How big will the Big Ten get? There was talk of expansion again, of course, and this is already after we knew that UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon were coming, and how many more? What is the right number? This is still a question we have. 20,000 of you check that out as well. Is the final number 18 where it is? Is it 20, 24? Do we go to 30 with the super conference? We discuss these things all the time. So clearly, as you can see here, our favorite topic seems to be expansion and who's coming and who's not. And it's the story outside the actual football that we like to talk about here. And you guys like to listen to and watch. So we'll take your comments on what you want to hear, what you want to see. Always hit us up again at Twitter at Talk Big 10, number 10. Also, the comments on YouTube are very helpful. I'll go through that. Sometimes I get show ideas there. So go ahead and help us out with that. And we'd be glad to consider it and put it together for a podcast for you. All right, we're continuing with our 1-year celebration show. Also want to give you a shout out in addition to Locked On Big 10. Don't forget our friends from Locked On have a show called Locked On Sports Today. It's 24/7. And it's right there on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. So there you have it. All right. Another look behind the numbers. How much have we grown here on Locked On Big 10 in just 1 year because of you? All that is coming up right here in just 1 minute on Locked On Big 10. All right, let's look at the numbers here for Locked On Big 10, our 1-year anniversary show. And I'm going to put it on the screen here, just our growth over this year. And here it is, full screen. Put it up here. All right. In the last year, we have done 270 podcasts. And we have added, thanks to you, 7,500 subscribers over this last year. So we inherited when we took over, we inherited 1,200, and now we're pushing 9,000, and I'm sure we'll get to 10,000 before the start of the football season. Thanks to you. Spread the word if you have some friends or people who are alum or fans. Tell them about us. We are right here. And we are just continuing to grow. But that's the goal. Our goal is to get to 10,000. I mean, I remember how excited I was when we went from like 1,200 to 2,000. I thought, oh, cool. This is great. We legitimately have a chance to hit 10,000 by the start of football season. So spread the word out there. Meanwhile, on YouTube only, YouTube views in 1 year, 1.2 million views from last June till this June. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love that. And then those of you listen on audio only on your favorite podcast app, we got another 300,000 audio listeners. So add them all together, and we've had 1.5 million people check us out over the last year. Thank you very much. That is incredible. That's all I owe to you guys. And we're going to keep doing it, and we're going to be even bigger and better in our second year. Our second year, of course, here will include the likes of USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, in addition to our usual traditional Big Ten teams. So we're very excited about all that. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for being a part of this and being part of the growth. Without you guys, it doesn't happen. You know the drill. There's many ways for you to interact with me here on Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10. Also on YouTube and our website, TalkBig10, 10.com. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and follow and share and like this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big 10 as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Check out another episode, if you will. Let's get those numbers, keep them going. And you can find them on the website, TalkBig10, 10.com. When you're done with us, go ahead and check out our friends at Locked On Sports Today for you as well on YouTube. That'll do it. I can't wait. Have a great weekend. First of all, thanks for joining us, and I can't wait till we meet again next week as we kick off year number 2 right here on Locked On Big 10. I'm Craig Shemon. We'll talk to you next time.